So I just got back from Ko Tao, an island here in South Thailand. I actually live in Surat Thani. I live on the mainland of Thailand, but I live in Surat Thani in the south. And in the Surat Thani province, there are quite a lot of islands. In fact, the license plates down here, the driving licenses down here, all have like islands. It's kind of like a symbol of this part of the country, this particular county, I guess you would call it. And yeah, there's a few really famous islands here, well, just off the coast, not here, you have to take a ferry obviously, but in Surat Thani you've got Ko Samui, Ko Tao and Ko Phangan. So some of the bigger, or some of the most famous, not necessarily the biggest, although Samui is one of the biggest islands. So yeah, but anyway, some of the most famous islands in the Kingdom of Thailand, in a country known for islands, which is really cool because it means I can get to go for little weekends away whenever I get a couple of days off. And we got a long weekend this past weekend and we ended up going out to Ko Tao. Traveling was actually a bit of a nightmare. Well, the return journey was, and we got a night boat to Ko Tao from the city of Surat Thani. I've never done that before. Usually if I'm traveling to the islands, I would go to one of the ports just outside of the city. I would drive to somewhere where it's a much quicker route. So if you drive to any of the ferry ports, it's like a 2-hour trip to the islands. You can go from the city, so there are boats that come up in the river into the city. They take much longer. I think the only one you can really take is the one to Ko Tao, but there is a night boat that runs to Ko Tao. And on the way there, it was fine. It was a bit choppy. The weather was pretty bad. But yeah, the boat was reasonably nice, air conditioned. Bunk beds were a bit like stuffy, but you got your own space, you got your own bed, which was cool. So yeah, I actually didn't mind at all the boat there overnight. And it's cool traveling overnight because, you know, we went on Friday night after work, managed to get a few hours sleep. Then we had the full day Saturday in Ko Tao, which was really cool. However, the downsides to the night boat, we could see for sure on the return journey. It was very, very grim. There's only 2 boats that do this trip, so one goes to the mainland, one goes to the island. Then they swap, so over one night they'll go the opposite direction, if that makes sense. So then this one's in the mainland, this one's at the island. One of the boats, the boat we took to the island, is reasonably nice, like I mentioned. One of the boats is absolutely grim. It looks like an absolute death trap. It was terrifying. That teamed with the bad weather, it was just an absolute nightmare. I was sick multiple times. The few people I was with were sick. A lot of people on the boat were sick. Super choppy. The boat, like we said, it was just this wooden boat. The beds were like, it was just a row of mattresses that were like this wide, and they're just about only just long enough to fit on, and you were next to strangers. It was pretty grim. But yeah, that's probably a story for a different video. But yeah, the return journey was not pleasant. But since I'm just back from an island myself, I thought I would make a video talking about some of the islands and some of my favorite islands here in Thailand. You can tell I'm back from the islands. I've got my island sun hat on. I thought I'd wear it especially for this video, even though it's very overcast. It's been raining all day, so it's probably not great for the video. I hope you can still see my face. But yeah, that's the island hat, if you were wondering. I'm going to start with the island I just came back from, and that is Ko Tao. Ko Tao, or Ko Tao. If you're speaking Thai, you actually probably pronounce it Ko, I believe. However, if most international travelers pronounce it Ko. If you see it written in English, it's usually written K-O-H. That means island, so all of these islands we're going to mention, Ko Tao, Ko Samui, Ko. There's a difference, but I'm probably going to say Ko for this video, in fact. But just know, if you are here in Thailand, maybe you're trying to speak to someone about getting a bus or a ferry to an island, and if they don't understand when you're saying Ko Samui, Ko Tao, you can always try Ko Tao, Ko Samui. I believe that's the correct pronunciation in Thai. But yeah, I thought I would throw that in there anyway. For the purpose of this video, let's go with Ko, because it is a little bit more, for English speakers at least, it's a little bit more common pronounced. However, like I said, the correct pronunciation is actually Ko. But anyway, Ko Tao is a small island here in South Thailand in the province of Surat Thani. Ko Tao is a small island, as I just mentioned, but it really is a very small island. It feels very much like an island. Some of the bigger islands, you lose that sort of island feeling somewhat. You definitely don't get that with Ko Tao. It's tiny. There isn't like a massive supermarket on this island. It's too small for that. There's only like a few like main roads that you can drive down, which is really cool, because if you rent a motorcycle, which is something that maybe you don't feel comfortable doing, but it's definitely worth it if you can drive, because you can drive one end to the island pretty easily, and then once you get to some of the further points of the island, there are pretty cool hiking opportunities. I didn't do much hiking this time, But yeah, I did go on a little bit of a trek to one of the viewpoints last time I was in Ko Tao. It's definitely worth it. You know, Ko Tao is a beautiful small island. There's a couple of small islands surrounding Ko Tao as well, which you get an amazing view of if you go to one of these high up viewpoints. Ko Tao is most famous for diving. There's an absolute ton of scuba diving schools and instructors on the island. In fact, a lot of the foreign people that you'll meet in Ko Tao, they all seem to work as diving instructors. We met about 5 or 6 on this most recent trip to Ko Tao. So if you're into diving, it's definitely worth checking out. I've never actually been scuba diving. However, I have been snorkeling around Ko Tao. And again, that was a great experience. You can rent a boat and someone will take you out to a few different spots and you can jump in and snorkel around. It's really cool. It's really one of the most beautiful places that I've ever done snorkeling, although I'm not someone who's been snorkeling many places, but I definitely appreciated the sort of natural beauty of Ko Tao. And like I said, with it being that small island, you do get a lot of natural beauty still there. This most recent trip, I went for a bit of a swim in the pool, but I mostly spent eating at restaurants, drinking in the bars. There's a lot of bars in Ko Tao, a lot of cool bars, a lot of cool beach bars, a lot of cool restaurants. You can get also, you know, for such a small island, you can get an amazing amount of international food. British breakfast, or the English breakfast, which I love. Got a few of them while I was there because they're pretty hard to come by where I live in the city. I also went to a great restaurant. I think it was at a bar restaurant called Seaside. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're in Ko Tao and you're staying in the main strip. Some of the best food I've had in a long time was at that Seaside. So yeah, if you're there visiting Ko Tao, go diving, maybe check out some of the bars, and if you're interested in dining out, then definitely I would recommend the restaurant Seaside. It was really good. One of my favorite islands, and an island I've definitely spent the most time on, is Koh Samui. Koh Samui is one of the bigger islands in Thailand. It's got a lot of stuff there. It's actually so big that it feels sometimes like not an island when you're driving around the ring road and that kind of thing. You lose sight of the sea. It's very livable on Koh Samui because it's so big. There's a ton of there's a mall. There's large supermarkets for you to do your shopping. There's an abundance of them, in fact. A ton of restaurants. And even the different areas, the different parts of Samui feel like very distinctively different, which is really cool as well. Depending on what you're looking for, if you want that smaller sort of island vibe, then maybe Samui isn't for you. However, if you want options to explore, if you want to potentially spend a long time on the island, I definitely recommend Samui. That's where I stayed. I was there for about 8 months. Very livable. I used to stay in Boput and Bangrak were the areas where I lived. They're kind of like more, there's a few different living situations there. You can choose from houses. There's a few condos there, which is where I was staying. But yeah, you've got a ton of options there. It's also not too what would I say? It's not too full on. It's not all party goers in that particular area. However, it's pretty close to an area called Chaweng, which is much more of a party going scene. In Chaweng, you've got a ton of bars, a ton of nightclubs, a lot going on over there. That's where the mall is. There's a ton over there. It's a short drive from Bangrak and Boput, which is good if you ever want a night out. You can head over there, or vice versa. You can, if you ever want to relax, you can escape to Boput perhaps. But Chaweng also has beautiful beaches. It's just also got a ton of bars and nightclubs, and I'd say the younger sort of backpacker, traveler, party goer would end up going to Chaweng. It's probably a pretty good option for you there. Boput, Bangrak, probably more for families, perhaps more for digital nomads or people who work remotely, as it's a little bit more livable, a little bit quieter at times, although there are bars, there are restaurants and all that good stuff in Boput as well. Another place that I really like in Samui is called Lamai. Lamai is kind of like a weird combination of the two. There's a ton of bars, a ton of restaurants there. It's probably more of an expat community in Lamai. There's a lot of sort of foreign people who live there, choose to live in Lamai. And again, there's really cool bars, really cool restaurants. Probably one of my favorite places if I were to go out for a drink would be in Lamai. It is quite a bit of a drive around the island from a few of the other areas we just mentioned, but definitely worth it. And Samui is really cool in that respect, in that there are different neighborhoods that have distinctive, different sort of cultures. Obviously, there are also a lot of stunning beaches in Samui. There's a lot of really interesting hiking to be done on Samui. I've been on a few different hikes up a few different hills, which you got an absolutely astonishing views from the top of. So there's plenty to do in Samui other than drinking, but I've predominantly been talking about in this video. So Ko Tao and Koh Samui are both here in Surat Thani in South Thailand, and maybe a little bit difficult, or maybe a little bit far to get to if you're not staying in South Thailand. Samui does have an airport. In fact, I think it's the only island that I'm going to talk about today at least that does have an airport, so you could fly to Samui, and if you were to go to Ko Tao or something, you could take a ferry from Samui, so you could potentially use the airplane that way. However, most islands, especially the smaller ones, don't have airports. Like I said, I think Samui is the only one on this list that does. I'm pretty certain that that's true. That being said, if you are in sort of north or mainland Thailand, I used to live in northeastern Thailand, Samui, Ko Tao, they're very difficult to get to. So for us, when I used to live up in Isan, one of the islands, or a couple of the islands we used to go to on our holidays, I'll mention now. So the first one would be Ko Samet. Ko Samet is a very, very small island. In fact, I think it's the smallest island on this list. The majority of this island in Ko Samet is actually national park, so you do have to pay an entrance fee pretty much if you want to go into the island. But yeah, it's stunning. It's very quiet. There's only like one road with a few different restaurants on, a few different bungalows, but yeah, stunning in natural beauty. Probably not the best place to go for partying, although there are bars there. And yeah, it's really, really pretty, picturesque island. And like I said, it's a predominantly national park, so you kind of get the idea of what you're going to get there. You can take a bus from Bangkok and get to Ko Samet with a ferry, obviously. But if you go to like one of the main bus stations in Bangkok and say you want to go to Samet, they will drive you down to the right area. If you were to look at the map of Thailand, you have Bangkok, and then below Bangkok you have a coastline. It's quite far. It's not particularly close to the coast, Bangkok. However, go to that coastline and you have the Gulf of Thailand. Samet is sort of off that coastline. Samet is much closer to central Thailand and obviously northern Thailand, although it's still very far from the majority of northern Thailand. Thailand's probably a much bigger country than you're expecting, unless you've been here before. But Samet is a great option, like I said, if you're in Bangkok or somewhere like that. And you can travel here pretty simply. Like I said, you can go to a bus station, jump on a bus, maybe it'll take between 4 to 6 hours to get down to the coast, then you can take a boat over to the island. It's only a couple of hours on the boat to Samet. Really small island, and one of the things that I really loved doing here was renting a scooter, a little motorcycle, driving to the end of the island and getting off at just some random beach. And you can do that in Samet. You can just stop. There's just all beaches around Samet. It's really beautiful. Very quiet, very relaxed. If that's what you're looking for, then Samet could be a great option for you. And finally, not far from Samet, if you want something a bit more lively, then definitely check out Ko Chang. Once again, this is in a similar location, much closer to central Thailand. So Ko Chang is pretty accessible also. If you want a quick trip away, potentially if you're staying in Bangkok, but you want to go and check out an island without traveling all the way to South Thailand. What I remember most from Ko Chang is the very, very steep mountain-like roads. So yeah, it's probably not the best place to rent a motorcycle unless you're an experienced motorcycle rider. It's known for having pretty hazardous conditions, especially in the rainy season when the roads are a bit slippier. But yeah, you're driving, if you take a taxi from the port, from where you get off the ferry to your hotel, you'll see the roads are absolutely crazy. Stunning, beautiful, like there's a lot of waterfalls, a lot of hiking to be in Ko Chang once again. But yeah, absolutely amazing. It is really beautiful, and it really feels like kind of like a jungle in Ko Chang. Really interesting island to visit. There's also a lot more bars compared to Samet, so you've got a lot more bars, a lot more clubs. I remember a club we went to, I think it was called Ting Tongs, which was a lot of fun. Ting Tong in Thai. Ting Tong means crazy, essentially. So yeah, you probably guess what you're going to get there. A lot of fun at Ting Tong. Plenty to do in Ko Chang. Those are some of my favourite islands, some of the islands that I visited whilst being in Thailand. I hope this video maybe helped you get an idea of some of the islands and what to expect from them. One of my favourite things about living in Thailand is definitely that I can take trips to these amazing islands. If you're interested in knowing one of the worst things that I think about living in Thailand is, then click this video right here because I made a video previously about just that.